Tonight, when it gets dark where you are, step outside and look up. You will see almost nothing. A handful of stars if you're lucky, washed out by streetlights and the glow of 1,000 screens. This is not what the sky used to look like. For nearly all of human history, the night sky was not a backdrop. It was the most complex, detailed, information-dense thing a human being could observe. Thousands of stars, a visible band of the Milky Way arching directly overhead, planets moving in patterns no one could explain, and no scientist to tell you what any of it meant. No textbook, no app, no satellite data. Just you and your entire group staring up into something vast, unmoving in its rhythms yet utterly mysterious in its purpose, every single night of your life. What did they think was happening up there? The answer is far more sophisticated, far more strategic, and far stranger than you've been led to believe. Let's start with what the sky actually demanded of prehistoric humans, because survival made it impossible to ignore. Unlike modern humans, who can check a weather app or a calendar, prehistoric groups needed to predict seasonal change with total accuracy. Get the timing wrong on when migratory animals would return, and your group starves. Misjudge when the rains would come, and the plants you depend on never grow. The sky was the only reliable calendar available, and ancient humans turned out to be far more sophisticated astronomers than most people assume. At a site in Germany called the Nebra sky disk, dating back 3,600 years, archaeologists found a bronze disk inlaid with gold symbols representing the sun, a crescent moon, and a precise cluster of stars matching the Pleiades constellation. This was not decoration. Researchers determined it functioned as an actual astronomical instrument, used to calculate the gap between lunar and solar calendars, a problem so mathematically complex that ancient astronomers had to insert an extra month periodically just to keep their calendar aligned with the seasons. People we once imagined as primitive were solving calendar mathematics that modern people would need a textbook to understand, but the calendar function only explains part of what the sky meant to prehistoric humans. Because the sky wasn't just useful, it was terrifying. In 2018, anthropologists studying eclipse records and oral traditions across dozens of pre-literate cultures found something remarkable. Independent groups, separated by oceans and thousands of years, with no contact with each other, developed strikingly similar explanations for solar eclipses. Something is eating the sun. A creature, a beast, a great cosmic predator, devouring the source of all light and warmth. Cultures banged drums, shouted, made noise to frighten the creature away, and the eclipse would end. The sun would return. As far as the people watching were concerned, their actions had worked. They had saved the world, every single time. Now stop. Because this reveals something profound about how the human mind processes the unexplainable. An eclipse is, statistically, one of the rarest and most disorienting events a human can witness. The sky going dark in the middle of the day violates every pattern your brain has ever learned to trust. And the human mind, faced with something that violates everything it understands, does not tolerate a blank space. It fills it, immediately, with a story dramatic enough to match the scale of what's happening. Not a small explanation for a small event. A predator devouring the sun demanded an equally enormous response. Drums, screaming, desperate collective action. The story wasn't irrational. It was the mind doing exactly what it evolved to do, refusing to sit in uncertainty when survival might depend on understanding the threat. But here's where prehistoric astronomy becomes something closer to obsession than observation. At Lascaux Cave in France, painted roughly 17,000 years ago, researchers analyzing the famous animal paintings noticed something strange in 2018. The positions of certain animals on the cave ceiling, particularly a cluster of dots above the shoulder of a painted bull, matched almost exactly the positions of the Pleiades star cluster as it would have appeared in the sky at that time. Other paintings throughout the cave appeared to align with seasonal star positions, marking the timing of animal migrations and breeding seasons. If the interpretation holds, it means prehistoric humans were not just watching the sky. They were encoding it. Recording star positions onto cave walls as a permanent reference, a star map disguised as art, accurate enough that researchers thousands of years later could cross-reference it against known astronomical positions and find a match. The deepest and strangest belief, though, involved the dead. Across dozens of unrelated prehistoric cultures, from ancient Egypt to the Dogon people of West Africa to early European societies, a specific belief appears again and again with no obvious shared origin. That the stars were not just lights. They were the dead, ancestors, watching. A 2015 cross-cultural analysis found that the association between stars and deceased relatives appears in cultures separated by tens of thousands of years and entire oceans, suggesting it may be one of the oldest spiritual beliefs humans ever developed. Which means when prehistoric humans looked up at night, they were not looking at an empty void, they were looking at a crowd. Every point of light, a person who had once sat by their fire, hunted in their forests, held their children. The sky was not separate from the group, it was an extension of it, the place where the group continued after the body stopped. Picture yourself lying on your back. 25,000 years ago, the fire behind you burned down to embers, the entire group scattered nearby on hides and grass. Above you, the sky is not the faint scattering you might see tonight. It is overwhelming. Thousands of stars, the dense pale river of the Milky Way splitting the darkness in two, more light than you have ever seen artificially produced in your lifetime. Someone beside you points to a cluster of stars and says a name, the name of someone who died 2 winters ago. You find yourself searching the same cluster every clear night since, an unconscious ritual, checking that they are still there, still watching. A meteor streaks across the black and the entire group gasps at once, a single shared breath. Because everyone understands instinctively that something has just happened, a sign, a departure, an arrival. No one is certain which, but everyone feels the weight of it equally. You do not have a word for astronomy. You do not need one. The sky is not a subject you study from a distance. It is family, calendar, religion, and warning system, all moving silently above you every single night of your life. This is what prehistoric humans believed was happening in the sky. Not chaos, not ignorance. A complete, interconnected system of meaning, built from careful observation, genuine fear, and profound grief, refined and passed down for tens of thousands of years before anyone wrote a single word about it. They tracked it with mathematical precision, good enough to build instruments we are still decoding today. They told stories about it, elaborate enough to organize entire calendars and rituals around, and they populated it with everyone they had ever lost, transforming an empty, indifferent void into the most crowded, meaningful place they knew. The next time you happen to catch a clear night sky, away from the lights, take a moment and actually look up. You are looking at the exact same stars your ancestors searched for answers in for longer than written history has existed. The sky hasn't changed. We just stopped looking at it the way they did.